Good morning. Hello, happy Saturday. I'm used to seeing comments when I first log on. There's Gigi. Let's see, what a week. Gray rocking the press conference. Oh, right. Wow, talk about a lot of triggers this week with the press conference. And I'm not even going to get into politics. I don't care what side you're on. It's just politics are filled with a bunch of narcissists. So, yeah, I'm with you. Good morning. Good morning. Waiting in Tennessee. Good morning, Doug. My dad is in Tennessee. My dad lives in Lawrenceburg area, and he's dealing with some pretty major health problems right now. So send him lots of positive thoughts and prayers. Anybody from Oregon? This year, every couple years, we do no presents at Christmas, and we'll go do like a family trip or a getaway and make memories instead of material things. And so that's what we're going to do this year. We just booked a week up in Oregon on the coast. So whenever I travel, I love to set something up. So if you're in Oregon, reach out to me because I'm always happy to get together with people, and we could do a social distancing get together. So let's dive in to questions. And I don't know if you, hi Cindy in San Diego, Idaho. My sister just moved to Idaho. She moved to Star like 2 weeks ago. They're waiting for their house to be built. So she's over California. Let me think. I was going to say something and it's completely escaped me. But for those of you who are joining us and you're new to this, welcome. We have a loyal little following that shows up every week. And I always like to say, sometimes they know more about the topic at hand than I do. I don't have all the answers, but we have an amazing community. I do like to say that I'm not an attorney. I can't give legal advice. We're just coming together, having coffee and talking about the narcissist and family court. And every week, you'll see we have a scheduled live on Saturday mornings. And I post the questions now in advance so you can see what we're going to be talking about. And then other things come up. Good morning, Deanna and Jessica and Renee. And so the questions come mainly, they've been coming through Instagram stories. We post a story. You can submit a question anonymously, or you can email coffeedatewithtina@gmail.com. And we try to pull questions that are relevant to the whole group. We can't do things with a lot of background. So let's go ahead and grab Canada. Hey, Janelle. You guys sent me the sweetest gift. Thank you very much. That made my whole day on a really hard week. So I appreciate that. First question, can the narcissist be trusted to fulfill the payment schedule on the divorce decree? No. Child support in the narcissist is a topic we could spend an entire hour plus talking about. The child support system is so broken. And most states, there may be a few holdouts, but most states are very big on keeping child support separate from their parenting time, their schedule, all of that. So it completely two separate topics. So if the person is in major default or arrears, it's not going to affect their parenting time. And, there's arguments on both sides whether or not that's fair. It is what it is. I'm very realistic. And I will tell you, I decided very early on, there's nothing fair and there's nothing just about the family court system. And so if I am expecting them to hold him accountable, I'm setting myself up for failure. I'll tell you, I also decided within the first year or two, putting my energy into trying to hold him accountable for child support was going to, completely kill my, destroy me. And I instead put my energy towards, I got a second job. I was working my butt off to try to keep food on the table, and I get it. And it's not fair and it's not okay. But the more, the way I describe it is that the child support is their biggest button, and that button is their button and yours is the kids. And so when you push that button, it is like a wire connects the two. And so they will go for your jugular, which is the kids. And so I learned that anytime I pushed that button, there were repercussions. Maybe he wasn't exercising all of his time and now all of a sudden he was. Or maybe if I asked for support or tried to have him held accountable, he would come after more time with the kids because he would rather pay a nanny or a babysitter or have free childcare with his mom than pay me support. That's just the way it is. So it was the first couple of years in where I started looking at child support more as leverage and strategy, because I figured out that was where his priority was. And the unfortunate part right now, so many are struggling with COVID, and now we've got, it's like everybody in the court system went around and handed out victim cards to the narcissist. If they love their victim cards, they love their hero cards, their image cards, and COVID just gave out a lot of victim cards for these guys, especially the ones who are running their own businesses. Sorry, I don't have any money. I've been hit by the pandemic. Even if that's not true, that's their victim card. Or, the ones who maybe their job is affected, but the irony is that they still seem to be traveling. They still seem to be living their normal lifestyle, but all of a sudden they can't pay support. In my case, and this kind of weaves into another question that came through, one of the things I talk about is that at the end of my marriage, I found out that my ex-husband had put us $1.5 million in debt, mostly behind my back. And we owned our own businesses, and it was all a facade. He was just constantly moving money and borrowing money and taking out loans without me knowing, refinancing the house without me knowing. And so, somebody asked about that money piece. How did that, the child support arrears that you've talked about and the debt, we had to file bankruptcy. That's how my custody battle started, was bankruptcy, the women's shelter. I lost my house, my cars, my job, my company, everything in a 6-month period of time. And so, he destroyed me financially, but then he went on to live this great, no, it was another facade, but he was still traveling. He was still, and the court didn't hold him accountable. And it was so frustrating to me. And so it was a mindset shift to where, I know money is so important to him that one day it will be my leverage. It will be my strategy to protect my kids. And so it was about year 2 that I stopped holding him accountable. But that didn't mean the child support balance didn't keep increasing and building behind the scenes. And it got to the point of being over $100,000 in arrears. And when it affected him, when he could not get his passport renewed, that's when he cared all of a sudden. And that's when I was able to say, you know what? Sign here. it wasn't that easy, but it turned out to be another year-long court battle. But I was able to get him to sign off on parental rights. And so we terminated his rights a year ago. All of my memories on Facebook are coming up of the adoption, the termination of parental rights. We had to go through another kind of a miniature evaluation. And so as frustrating as that child support topic is for so many of you, and as frustrating as it feels when they just seem to be getting away with everything because this is a game to them. All it is a big feed supply. There comes a time where they are held accountable, or where you are able to weave that into your strategy and use that as leverage to protect your kids. I know one thing that a lot of my clients have done is, especially when they're in negotiations in the beginning, is, hey, at good faith, I know we're going to work up to 50-50. I know that's the reality of the system, the reality of where we are. Let's go ahead and out of good faith, I'll agree to set the child support at 50-50 now, so that becomes a moot point. And then, whatever happens with the schedule, it doesn't adjust the support. We're already ahead when it comes to support. Here's what it's set at. Because what we know about the narcissist, 9 out of 10 times, they don't really care about the parenting. I see the ones who maybe have some borderline traits. They actually, it's terrifying, but they do, they want to, they're getting their feed from the kids and all kinds of things. That's another topic. But parenting can be tedious and selfless work, and the narcissist is capable of doing it for the short term, for impression management, but we know they aren't capable of really doing a 50-50 schedule, big picture and long term. And even if they sign up to do it and they show up for a little while, over time they start to back out of that. Or they give you lots of areas to document and put it back in front of the court. So that's one area, I've never personally done that, but I know a lot of people who have, and it has worked out well, because what they find out, maybe the person has 30% parenting time, and after a year, maybe now they only have 25% because they've given up a Wednesday night dinner. They can no longer make it, or whatever it is. So, we have to think about this strategically. That's how they think about it. And it's hard for so many of us to do. And yeah, it is just a game, and it is frustrating. I see Doug's comment there. These are our kids, and nature intended for us to protect them. And you're in a broken system that just sees you as a case number, is prioritizing parental rights over the rights of our kids. And when we can get to the point of setting emotions aside and looking at this more strategically, that's the goal. And, we're going to take 5 steps back, 2 steps forward. We're human. And even me, if I got an email from my ex-husband right now, it would spin me. And so many people put me on this pedestal and think I'm this amazing warrior mom. No, I just understand the system. I understand that a lot of it is just a feed supply to these people. And so you have to beat them at their own game and put on your strategy hat. So yeah, all a show. Now let's go to the next question. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. How do I explain divorce to them? That's the age my kids were when we started out. And at that age, I just told them that every family is different. Some families have 2 moms, some families have 2 dads, some families only have 1 mom or 1 dad. And then there's sometimes where mom and dad lives in a different house, and the kids, get to spend time with both of them at their houses. And so I think sometimes we try to bring too much into it. But my biggest piece of advice in that, get aligned with a child therapist. a play therapist, someone who can help you navigate this, because, I know what worked for me. I'm happy to share that. But I will say the thing I'm most thankful about is aligning with really good therapists really early on. And if your hands are tied, if the other side won't allow you to get your kids in therapy, then the next best thing is you find a child therapist or a psychologist who you can go see, and you can describe the situations that are going on, and they can help you with the tools and the direction. I thank my lucky stars for the therapists that we've had along the way. My 15-year-old daughter still talks to one of our therapists she does Zoom calls with her recently, because the pandemic's hard and she's 15. And so, really find people who can. I tell people, think of it as building your team. And you may have people in your immediate team circle, and then there's the player sitting on the bench, and that could be a therapist just in your back pocket for you in case you need tools and directions. Yeah. Gosh, I'm reading some of the content. Gosh, so many of you are going through so many hard things, and I'm glad that we have this community to come together, because it's such an isolating journey. It's the reason I started my blog back in 2011. Was when I started that blog, it had nothing to do with me being a mom. And people get confused, one mom's battle, that I'm all about mothers' rights. That's actually really not true. I truly felt like the only mom in the whole world going through this. I now know there's so many of us. And I know we've had Doug joining us every week, and my dad raised me. There are some really amazing dads out there. But no matter if you're a mom or a dad or what's going on, this is isolating because people don't get it. And, I find that even a lot of mental health professionals, therapists, don't get it. And it's one of the reasons why I love Dr. Ramani and the group that we're in. They're all about labeling it. If you were in a therapist office to talk about, that your ex was an alcoholic, the therapist would have no, issue saying, yeah, has an alcohol problem. Here, go to NA or AA or NA. What is the one for support? NA. No. Al-Anon. That's what it is. But for some reason, there are therapists, when you're talking about a narcissist or narcissistic abuse, it's this taboo. We can't label people because they're not in the room. Yeah, but you can label behavior that is dysfunctional and abuse, and we could call abuse. It's not just physical abuse. And so make sure you're supported, and make sure you're supported with a therapist who gets it. It's really critical. All right, let's jump into the next question. I have a really tough judge and I'm nervous for trial. Any tips on how to act in front of the judge? Again, if anybody has input, things that they want to share, my stance in front of I didn't have a judge, I had a commissioner. They're called different things in every state, but California, we have commissioners, which are kind of right underneath judges. And, it's an intimidating process, to go sit on a stand and have to answer questions and be drilled by a-hole attorneys and all of that. I like to humanize myself. If I were going to sit up on the stand, reminding them that I'm not just a case number. And so I may say, my apologies in advance. I'm really nervous. I've never done this before. And it immediately, if you have a judge who has half a little compassion cell or, half a heart, it kind of wakes them up to like, oh, most people don't do this every day. They become callous to it. They become desensitized, but reminding them that you are human can be really helpful. And then, I hate apologizing for that type of thing, but I do think if the strategy is to remind them that you're a mom and that you're a human or a dad or whatever it is, I think it's okay. It kind of breaks the ice. And I will tell you, I believe one of the reasons my case turned out okay, I showed so much respect to the judge, even on the days that he ruled against me, even on the days that I knew he was putting my kids' lives in danger. I always said, thank you for your time today, Your Honor. I would walk out of the courtroom and break down crying, but I always remained respectful. And one of the things that I see in family court when I'm sitting there, I watch people's behavior. And sometimes, even clients where I, will tell them, this is how, you have to be respectful. They'll roll their eyes or they'll put up their hands, and the judges are paying attention to those things. And you may not even realize that you're doing it, but I'll tell you, as an observer in court, I see it day in and day out, and I cringe a lot. And so, if I had to assume a role, it would be of the first grade, second grade teacher that everyone loves. I want to be authentic and true to who I am. That's my goal. I'm not going to go in and act, but I'm not going to go in, in this warrior mom, I'm going to take down the court. That's not going to end well. And so I didn't take that stance. You have to be authentic to your truth. But I guess my big thing would be, really pay attention to how you are coming across. Practice in the mirror, videotape yourself, and then watch it back, and make sure you are holding those eye rolls in, the body language. I know my judge or commissioner was trained in reading body language. And I guess most of them probably do go through some type of training in that, to see, it doesn't seem to matter when people are lying, but I do believe they pay attention, even to people in the audience. Sometimes I tell people, when you bring in a support person, they better be so centered and emotionally regulated, because I watch the judge, watch your support people, and it's all about forming a picture in their minds of who you are, who the other side is, and who all of these players are. And so your support people, whoever you bring into that courtroom, better be a very good representation of you and of your situation. Be very careful with that. My face is going to screw me if I ever go to trial. I think you win the comment of the day, Jenny. And I think that could be said for so many of us. Let's see. Would you recommend taking a settlement or going to trial to fight for what is right? If you've been through this experience, share it in the comments, please. I think it's a really hard question to answer because there are so many variables in every situation. For me, if I were facing that dilemma, I've said many times, I would rather eat top ramen 3 meals a day than fight the other person for money, because I know when I push that money button, he pushes my kid button. And so, if I were in a situation like that, I would look at it big picture. Where are my sticking points on each topic? Where am I able to bend? Where am I able to let the other person think that they're winning? And, and it would depend on what my documentation was like. If I had major documentation that shows this person is a really dysfunctional, abusive, neglectful parent, I would probably want to put it in front of the court. So that became part of the foundation of our case, because if the court doesn't know about what's going on behind the scenes, they just have a very limited view of your case and of your situation. And so, do I believe, here's one of the things, that comes up a lot, and I do a course on mediation. People will say mediation is a waste of time. Yes and no. I believe that mediation can be very helpful if you go into it with a strategy mindset and realistic expectations. I think it can be invaluable. And I cringe when people try to get out of it, because I think, for a variety of reasons, it is important to do. When it comes to going to trial, fighting for what's right, I don't put any hope in the family court system to be just or to be fair. So I think in a situation like this, if you're fighting for what's right, you're potentially setting yourself up for failure. Janelle, who's joining us today, uses the analogy, you wouldn't go into a hardware store to buy an avocado. You would be setting yourself up for disappointment if you are going into Ace Hardware and going up and down the aisles looking for an avocado. I don't think you're going to find justice and fairness, or going to be validated about, what's right in the family court system. So, that's a question that has a lot of layers and a lot of variables. But for me, it's really looking at things big picture. Is this going to matter in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? I'm really big on picking my battles wisely. So, and I think that has carried me a long ways in this, took 10 years, but I have peace. And so, I think that justice and fairness comes in different ways when it comes to the narcissist. When I look at my ex-husband, what a, drunk, miserable, horrible life he leads. And he can never truly connect or have a bond or relationship with another person without an ulterior motive, without trying to scam them. So, what is the point of life if that is your goal? So I look for justice and fairness outside of the family court system, and it's not mine to deliver. It's much bigger than me. So hope that helps. Tamara says, my ex hasn't seen my daughter in about 6 months. Wow. And that's another area. I don't know if it has to do with COVID, where these people have victim cards. If they don't really want to be a parent, they could just cite, I don't want to expose her. I don't want to be exposed, whatever it is. So I'm, celebrate those moments of peace and use that time to strengthen your child, to teach them about boundaries, to teach them that their voice matters, all of those things. And you can do that without ever speaking poorly or even talking about the other parent. So whenever I had those moments of peace where my ex disappeared for a while, I embraced those, and I used those to show my kids what normal looks like and what healthy looks like. Okay, and then last question, what do I do about my children crying when they have to go to dad's? One of my kids even had an anxiety attack. I think we are all feeling you on that. My mug, my aunt gave me this. That's a hard one. And you have to be very age appropriate. And I don't know how old your kids are. If they're older, my go-to answer is always mom and dad work with a team of people to decide what schedule or what is best for our family. There's going to be times where we may not agree with it or dad may not agree with it, but we all have to follow the schedule. And then you're taking yourself out. It's not mom is forcing you to go with this person. We have a team. I don't like using the words attorneys, judges when we're talking to kids, because it's just, they get one chance at being kids. And so I try to keep it as age appropriate and non-adult as possible. Um, and when the kids are crying, when the kids are having panic attacks, it breaks my heart to hear that, because it takes me right back to where I was in those moments. And for me, I think of each of us come into this world with a toolbox. And when we're little and younger, our toolbox is completely empty. And as we go through life, the goal is to add more tools, more experiences, more coping mechanisms into that toolbox. And as adults, there's going to be times where we kind of want to do an inventory or an audit of that toolbox and say, this no longer works. This tool served me really well at this point in my life, but I'm gonna, give it to somebody else, or it no longer has a place in my toolbox, and now I need to add these tools in. And I used to share that analogy with my daughter is, you have a toolbox, and we need to put in the tools that will help you navigate difficult situations, whether it's a bully on the playground, or you're having a lot of stress and anxiety about going with dad for his parenting time. Let's talk about what you can do to, it's empowering our kids. It's giving them some, the tools that they need. When my kids were really little, we had a transition teddy bear that their therapist recommended. And it was a bear that my daughter got to pick out, and it went with them back and forth between the visits. And it was a permanent object because, and then there's also books like The Invisible String, that The Kissing Hand is another book that we used to read, to where, and I know that there are some moms who they'll draw, like, the mom and the child has like if it's going to be a day or two visit, a little like temporary tattoo that you both have matching ones, and whenever you touch it, mom's sending you a big hug, whatever that is for you. We have to, and that's where therapists for our kids can come in really handy, because sometimes I don't even, with my own kids, I will say to them, I don't know how to answer that question. But let's wait till Tuesday night when we talk to Miss Sue, and maybe she can help us, find out what we can do to feel better. Empowering our kids, giving them tools, equipping them for, really difficult situations. But my heart goes out to any of you who are going through this right now. I will tell you, my kids have been through a lot. And if you met them and talked to them, you would never know what they've been through. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but I had to remind myself in those moments that my kids were also on their own parallel journey. And for whatever reason, they are having the life experiences that they're having. And my daughter may end up being a child psychologist. At one point, she wanted to be an attorney for children. Our kids are being molded by their experiences, and it's our job to help guide them and equip them for all of this. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I already have next Saturday's scheduled on the calendar, and the questions for next Saturday are already posted. I look forward to this every week. Thank you so much for joining me, and take care. Practice self-care today. even if it's a 5-minute meditation. Do something for you to refill your tank. All right. Bye, guys.